Do you want to learn Houdini and this is your first time using it? If yes, then this video is perfect for you. In this video, we're going to learn the fundamental of Houdini, and I'm going to explain to you how Houdini really works and what to expect using it and what kind of system we build on it. I know this video is long. First, we have the timestamp. Also, this video contains a lot of information. It's over 1 hour long, compressed down into this video. I will start first by explaining the UI. Here we have the 3D scene view, which as you can see, displays the 3D object. Here we have the parameter interface, and here we have the network editor. This is the property of a network or a node. A network consists of nodes. So this is a network and this is the node of the network, and we might have sub-network here too. Now we need to know that Houdini is node centered. Most of the time you're only gonna use node network, create something in it, create a procedural system. Now up here we have the shelf where you can create custom preset that is already made. I don't use it that much because I create my own systems, but I only use it to create camera from view. Now we're gonna minimize many of the UI element. Like you can see here, the arrow, hide, shelf, dock. Up I have the main menu, which exists in every software, where you can load and save files. And down here we have the play bar, where you can play the animation or hit play to simulate the animation. And here you have a simulation setting, and here you have the status bar, where you can say, let's say something is rendered, tell you the file is saved, it will tell you. Now on the left we have the toolbox where you have the move tool, rotate and scale. Also where you have the camera view. I don't use these that much because, as I said, Houdini is procedural where you control everything from the node. Now to use the move tool, click on the move tool and click on one of the object in the object context. Let's say plate. Now you can see the gizmo showed up. You can use it to manipulate the object. The view tool allows you to navigate the scene. Click the view tool, right click to rotate, left click to zoom in and out, and middle click on the mouse to pan the view. Also you have F to frame the active object, like framing the donut, and H to reset the scene view. You have here setting for the tool that we selected from the toolbox, and here we have the display option. Going to go over them soon. Now in this section we're going to learn how we're going to customize Houdini to look like this as opposed to this where we left off, so we can both be on the same page. Now as you can see, there is a little arrow that you can click and that will collapse the panel like you have seen. Now this small handle on the UI allows you to change it like this, or if you middle click it, you can switch between these two panels. Also you can alt middle click it. Also when you have done that, we will press B to bring back that parameters panel, but now we have it as subsection of the network editor. Now a few more things before we finish. If we hit D here and we go to the background, we can hit dark. You don't have to do this, but I am doing it because this is how I prefer Houdini, and we can close it. And to save the current desktop environment or the user interface layout, we go here and we save current desktop as, and you type in a name. I already have done that. Now we are both on the same page, and if you want the donut file or the asteroid file, please check the first comment. You can pause here to see the UI summary. Now Houdini has three main components: a node, an attribute, and parameters. These three what makes a procedural system happen. The procedural system is at the core of Houdini. Whether you want to do procedural modeling or you want to do simulation, you're going to have to deal with this. Now of course there is a Vex and hscript and Python, and you need math knowledge to produce the system and sometimes physics, and I'm going to explain that soon in this video. By the way, 1000% of you are not subscribed, so please do. Now we need to learn about a node next. Now first we need to talk about the context, what context we are in. So most of the time we are in the object context, sometimes we are in the material context, the out context, which is responsible for the render set. Now talking of different contexts, you also have these types of net. As you can see, you have the surface operators, you have objects which are like basic you have dynamic operators, which are responsible for simulation Houdini and things like that, etc. You have Vex, which is the main programming language Houdini. I'm gonna go over it soon. Now hitting Ctrl B, we can maximize the network editor, and hitting tab we can have this menu. We can type in geometry. So we have a geometry network. Now we are in the geometry content, as you can see. Also, if you hit here box, we can create a box. Now a different way to create node, you can see this show height tool palette, and here you can type in a box. For example, you can create a box, but we already hit tab and type in the name of the network. Now as you can see, a network has several options. It has a way to connect it, it has the node information, it has bypass and display and secondary display. I'm going to go over them all, but here's the hotkey. Now here inside the donut network, as you can see, we can display certain node, we can bypass certain node, we can connect by clicking on the dot and dragging. We can maybe create point connectivity. We can also display information here. More on it soon. Check the timestamp. You also have a secondary display, as you can see here. It's being displayed as wire, but you also have the option to change the display mode here. Now we can actually delete a node clicking delete. As you can see, it deletes the color node. Now we have a lot of tools to organize and keep the node network organized. Extremely working in Houdini. Now we can delete a wire by holding Y and dragging. We can delete multiple wires this way, or by selecting single wire and deleting it. We also can cut a wire. Also be mindful that the left one is always the first input. So for example, this is the first input, second input, third and fourth. Now we can rename a node by clicking on the name, pressing space maybe 02 like that, and we can create a frame from here, and so we can keep the node network organized. Let's say this is base. Also we can create a comment. This is where group top exists. So just like we need to keep things very organized because node network can get really complicated. Going to show later on the video. We also have the option to change node color, and by pressing C or clicking here, as you can see, or we have the option to change the node look by hitting Z or clicking here. As you can see, this is the group node. I can change its look, so we can keep things more consistent and organized. This gives us a lot of clarity later on. Now navigating the node network is just similar to navigating the 3D viewport. Middle click to pan and left click to zoom in and out, and F to frame a node. Now to search a node network, we have the operator tree here, and we can type in a name and hitting enter, and as you can see, the node will get highlighted and we can frame it so we can find it easily. The node network can get really big. Now we can organize a node network group of them by selecting them, holding A and dragging down or dragging right. Also you can hold Shift L and it also organize them properly. Now, so we can talk about the display option. Here you can select the flat wire shaded or the smooth wire shade if you want, so we can make it more clear. Here we have several display options. We have the grid. We have a grid that is used to draw a curve, construction plane. We have display only light. This option is very useful when you are doing modeling and you're coloring the model. We have several lighting options. Now here we have the display option to display, for example, points. In Houdini we don't really have vertices, we have points. By hitting D, we have this panel to make the point marker slightly big. Now other thing about Houdini, in Houdini we call polygon primitive. So this is a primitive, this is a primitive, and vertices are actually, each point has several vertices. As you can see, there's here 3 main vertices. So points are vertex in maybe Blender, and primitive are polygon, and vertices are you could say something that links the polygon to the point or the primitive to the point. So here we have display normal but for points, And here we have point trails that is used for simulation and particles. And here actually there's a very important concept. In Houdini, every single point has a number. As you can see here, every single point has a number 1, 0, 2. And every single primitive has a number. And we have the display normal for primitive, as you can see. And why that's important? Because in Houdini, we have something called the spreadsheet, which has the attribute called point attribute, which is B. And we are here, we can middle click and see we have 8 points and we have a point attribute, and the information displayed on the node tell us a lot of information about the attribute. Also, maybe if you have a detail attribute or a primitive attribute here, and also a group information gonna be displayed here and more. This is very useful for us. Also here we have the primitive attribute and detail attribute. So you remember when I say that Houdini consists of 3 main components: parameters, node, and attribute. We already talked about node and we talked a little bit about the attribute. But I want to explain actually what is an attribute and give you a little bit of a programming background. Now, to explain the concept of attribute better, here I have a box, and here for example, I have a UV, auto UV. If we clicked middle click, you can see that there is a vertex attribute called UV now, and on the color too, there is a primitive color attribute called CD. So first, let me show you that it's been displayed, and the UV actually, if you hit 5, you can see there's a UV. You can hit 1 to go back, and poly bevel, you can see how it's applying a bevel. Now we go to the geometry spreadsheet, so I can explain this concept a lot more. Now as you can see here, we have a box and we are applying color, but the color attribute is applied to the primitive. So in the point tab, we only have point, which is the B. As you can see, it's a B attribute called B. If we jump into the primitive tab, we will find the attribute called CD. And as you can see, there is RGB, which is red, green, blue. So as in this example, in the vertex tab, we have the UV information of the UV is actually written here in this spreadsheet. So everything we do in the geometry network is actually registered in the spreadsheet, geometry spreadsheet, as you can see. Now, as you can see here, the box has 8 points, but the beveled one, it has 23 points. So the point information is being registered here. Not only that, but every single number, for example, point number 0, 1, or 2, correspond to the exact same one we saw earlier. Just to demonstrate this here, we have primitive color displayed here in the option. We have primitive number 1 to 5, but we here only want to blast number 1, so we set 1 in the group and we set group type to primitive. And like this, we plus only number 1. Or we want to change the color. We have similar setting, but in different node. We change the color of only 1, because Houdini works in this way, where every single primitive and point has a number. Now, a very important concept that I did not mention before: an attribute is a group of variables is applied to either the point or the primitive or the vertices or a detail attribute, which works really as an exported variable. I'm going to show all of that later. Now, if you don't know what is a variable, I'm going to make a whole new video about programming for artists, but for now, as you can see here, this is a programming file in Python where I have several variable in a different types. A variable that's something that can change, but something that also can hold value, and it has a data type. For example, string, which is a text, which is, for example, a bath. There's integer, which is a whole number. There is float, which is a floating point, and boolean, which is either true or false. And there is things like array and list too. Please tell me down in the comment if I made it clear. I think I did. So this is a very important concept for you to understand, so I hope you understood it. Now to show you the power of the parameter interface, I created this page exported to Unreal Engine. It's a system where you can generate infinite amount of grass. Now for example, you can say I want maybe fewer grasses or more grasses. If that makes sense. They are being generated based on a scatter point. Also you have the profile shape of the grass. We can change it in the parameter interface. This system allows us to actually create infinite amount of grass, and I have a lot of presets to show you. Also on the cactus example, we have the same story where you can control the cactus based on a system. You can change a lot of things about it. For example, I can show you here. And we can switch to single row. As you can generate infinite amount of cactus, and we can create this as an HDA. In Houdini, an HDA is like a digital asset that can be sent to Unreal Engine. For example, we can select group of node and create a subnet, and we can convert it to an HDA and send it to Unreal Engine. Now to show you a practical example how we actually can work with parameters, every single node has a parameter interface, as you can see, and we can create a null, and we can go right click parameter, edit parameter interface, and for example we can drag the distance here, and we can hide these, make them invisible, hit apply and accept, and we can view it, and from here we can control the bevel. So this is how we create a parameter interface like the one I showed you, but it's a lot more complex. A very important concept in Houdini is the concept of groups. As you can see, there is something called group. We can see it in the geometry where there's a group for prim. And here what group is useful for, let's say I have a system that scatter rocks and grass on a ground. You can separate rocks from grass from ground using group. This is one of very practical use in Houdini. Groups are a critical part of Houdini to select part of the geometry, for example. This example, I created a group selecting the top part, calling it top, and I color it here using group top, or I blasted or deleted the top group. Now a very important concept in Houdini, here we have a box. The concept is channel referencing. For example, here we have the size, the Y size, and we want to center the box. So we take the Y size, copy the parameter, and we paste relative reference, as you can see, and we divide it by 2. We can have the box exactly centered by copying a channel from here to here and dividing it by 2. We also have an example here where I wrote an expression to control the level of detail of the model in Python. You can choose either between hscript, the example we saw earlier in the channel, or Python. As you can see here, you can change the level of detail. I also used it to set the voxel size level of detail, so I can have an export value and I have a preview value. I have several values to choose from. Now a very simple example about Vex. We can achieve what we can achieve in a group of nodes in a single block of code. In this example, we have the code changing the attribute of normal to be pointing up with a simple expression. All points are pointing up. This is before and this is after. Now all of that comes together so a bunch of nodes can interconnect and create a system that can generate something or create a simulation. This is basically what Houdini is like. We have the node, expressions, parameters, view, and channeling all talking together to create a work of art. So I hope you like this video. Please consider subscribing and giving this video a thumb up. Tell me down in the comment how did you find this video, and thank you so much for watching. See you on the next video.